Hey, we're back, and this time around, this video is going to be an interview with the producer of Trophy Hunting for Unicorns, Mr. Tim Bushong.
John.
And sir,
wonderful to see you again.
again.
Been a while, yeah.
This man is a master at his craft, and I think we have a pretty decent working relationship. You haven't locked the door on me yet, so you know.
Right, you're still allowed in.
Yeah. So,
you have your press pass, sir.
Yeah. Here, he even fills my coffee cup occasionally. But,
that's right.
Incredible person to work with. So, just want to ask you a few questions. I mean, I don't know if I've ever asked you this before. Where are you from originally?
About a 5-minute walk that way. I
grew up. This is home.
This is absolutely home. I am a Hoosier apologist. We have the best state in the union. I was born in Wabash.
Okay.
And they considered that such a monumental event that they ended up tearing the building down. Else, someone might want to replicate my birth. I'm kidding. But they lived right here. I was probably conceived in Southern Cal. And mom and dad had moved out there. Dad took a teaching position, discovered they were expecting me, and thought, nah, we got to be around family. So my paternal grandparents lived right up the road here, and then my mom's parents lived in North Manchester. So really close to extended family, cousins, all that kind of thing.
But you were born in Wabash.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I was raised
tore the building down to build a Honeywell Center or something.
Right. No, so I grew up in Syracuse, Indiana. Did a lot, obviously a lot of traveling with rock and roll and, touring and stuff like that. But I always liked this area. You can be guaranteed that when you wave at your neighbor, he will wave back, and he might even say, hey, hold on a second, I've got some tomatoes for you.
Or corn.
It's Indiana, man.
Yeah, you get corn too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of goes into the next question is, what got you into music in the first place? I mean, how long, you've been a musician like forever.
Yeah. Our house was just filled with all kinds of music, except for rock and roll. But that's pretty typical of a Midwestern, basic evangelical Christian household in the late 60s and early 70s. My dad was a music major, trumpet. My mom was a music major, choir and vocal. And she's a very accomplished pianist. She's currently playing the organ at Syracuse Baptist Church, where I pastor. And so there was always something going on. Plus, I got a little taste of the gypsy lifestyle, at least on some weekends. My parents were in a gospel quintet called the Jubileers, and they had an old Shure Vocal Master system with the 2 columns. And so, that was kind of a badge of, okay, I've arrived. I can carry one of these to the trailer.
That's a skinny column.
Yes.
Stand about
that was D. Rigueur.
Yeah.
One of my first gigs was a pair of Vocal Masters, and then we borrowed another pair of column speakers, probably custom, okay, and powered them all with a Vocal Master head.
Probably didn't have any monitors either, did you?
What are those?
Yeah, one of those.
So yeah, there was always music. My dad liked big band. We had a lot of that, a lot of classical. So I was pretty familiar with the canon of Western music. And I think my first rock record was a 45, Taking Care of Business.
Wow. Okay.
And my first album I ever bought was Fandango by ZZ Top. So
that's a good way to start.
Yeah, blues, solid, identifiable tones. Randy Bachman is an unsung guitar hero. The guy is incredible.
There's some prog rock that Bachman Turner.
Oh, yeah.
You can't find anywhere.
In fact, we were driving home from a graduation Sunday, surfing around the radio, and Hand Me Down Shoes came on from the Guess Who. Well, you know who's playing guitar. That's Randy.
Yeah.
And that song has got some, it's like a parfait. It's got layers. It's good.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw Kansas, they fronted Bachman Turner Overdrive at the Fort Wayne Memorial Coliseum, which was, you talk about divergent musical styles. It was unique.
Yeah.
But Well, that goes into my next question. You were in a band, Love War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what label was that on?
That was on the Elefante brothers label, Pachyderm.
Okay, so you did one label or one album on a label, and then you released a second Love War
25 years later.
Yeah, I was going to say just recently, within the last 5 years or so, right?
Yeah, 2018.
That was all the same original guys, right?
Right. We had, well, Love War is pretty simple. You know, you think about the classic three-piece lineup: James Gang, ZZ Top, Rush.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of three-piece.
Cream.
Cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'd put that band together. The record was written by myself and Greg Purley, the drummer, and then we ended up getting Rick Armstrong on bass. Recorded the record summer of '93 in Southern Cal, Los Alamitos, Cerritos area of Long Beach. And then that record was released. We didn't sell tons, but it got a lot of critical acclaim and people liked it. And a lot of the fan mail would be something to the tune of, "Wow, this is finally, I have some Christian rock I can play for my pagan friends." Well, that's high praise indeed. You mean it's like actual legit rock and roll, you know? Yeah. Well, then that band morphed into the Channel Surfers, which was 97, 98, 99. And that was just a real hodgepodge of musical styles all thrown in together, just like a South Louisiana jambalaya.
Same guys, or
no? In fact, it was
revolving door of musicians.
Well, with that band, it was myself, John and Lance Hill, John on bass, Lance on drums. We had the initial lineup with a singer named Jason Brown, who's now pastoring in Florida, Grace Brethren Church. Jason Brown, and then he just finally had come to the point where I don't think I'm going to be able to be in a band, because we were ready to tour, and it was my last chance to really get out on the road. My kids were getting, 7 years old, 8. We had 3 children, and my wife, we homeschooled. My wife didn't work outside the house, so I was thinking, well, if we're going to do it, that band was very well received. Love War was as well, but it's, let's face it, progressive metal is more of a niche. Channel Surfers were widely enjoyed by all kinds of different. So you'd have, it's kind of like in high school, the jocks like it because it's kind of fun. The stoners like it because it is gritty and intense. Yeah. The blue collar kids like it because you're singing their stuff, So it was a lot of fun to play. It was the most enjoyable band because I wasn't the lead singer.
And everybody shows up just because the girls like you.
That's not me.
Yeah.
They said, "Hey, look, a band and their grandpa."
Okay. All right.
I heard that from a couple of folks. I don't look that old, but it's apparent. Hey, look, it's a band with their dad on guitar. Huh? Cool.
Oh, well, I've had that happen with my daughter, who is shorter than me, which is amazing. And she will be 43 this month, and she still has very long hair.
Shorter than you, John?
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Anyhow, but my son is taller. Anyway, we've been out together, and people look at me like, "You dirty old so-and-so," with that young lady. And she's actually had to turn around and say, "He's my father."
It's John DeGroff, coward, bully, cat, and thief.
Yes, you disgusting old pervert, you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you mentioned working with the Elefantes.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, those guys are like
possibly the most dismal and disappointing experience of my life. But that wouldn't be true. That was good. They were able to take what we had and really produce it. I tell you what, I've been in contact. In fact, John wrote me recently, said, "Hey, Dino and I sat down and listened to the new record," and he was like, "Stellar, this is great." I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty high praise, right?" So, long story short, our tape ended up in their hands. They liked the band, flew us out. Actually, at the time, it was Greg and I, and we decided to sign with them. We thought they'd be able to produce Love War and make it big and fat and all that stuff. And so I was out in Southern Cal about 5.5 weeks working on the record, tracking, recording all the overdubs, And I learned an awful lot about just basic, not just engineering. I learned some engineering, but more the production side, trimming off the fat, making sure an arrangement makes sense top to bottom, beginning to end, and then John. You ask anyone who's recorded vocals with John Elefante, you're going to get a workout. Because those were the days, here we go, John.
Yeah.
Well, in my day, we didn't have auto-tune. We had to sing it right.
We didn't have digital. We had 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And you either got it right or you did tape number 43 until you got it right. Correct?
Punch in.
Yeah, right.
So John and Dino taught me an awful lot about basically, hey, expand your mind. Because we all had a pretty wide vocabulary of music. So between Rick is a classic 80s bassist. So he's got all that stuff with the pick. He's right on top of and he wants everything in the pocket, right? Here's the fun fact. So during the early 90s, everyone was recording to this thing called a click track. I mean, you had to. That's just how you keep people in line. We had one song, that was actually the first song on our demo, Stand Under It, which is re-released and completely eviscerated and changed for the new record. But it had this one section, post-chorus, pre-verse, that was all this constant offbeat, and it was just almost impossible. Greg just could not get on that. I said, whatever, we'll do it without a click. Well, that song never even made it on the record, and we did the rest of the record with no click. So there are certain parts of the record you can hear breathe, but it's cool. I didn't realize until later, Sean Browning hired me to do a version of Back in Black for the Fort Wayne Comets. And I thought, well, let's find the tempo and I'll play, because obviously that song is recorded to a click track. No. And so now, who's the studio guy, Rick Beato, that's one of his things, is you think that this is this da-da-da, oh, there's got to be a click back there. Nope. Song breathes, moves, there's some dynamics, and then it goes back to the groove. And so that was an interesting fun fact about Soak Your Brain. No click.
Well, did both John and Dino, did they work together in the studio at the same time? Were those guys both there?
Yeah, they would. I mean, John's going to handle vocals, some arrangement. Dino, great arrangement idea on one of the songs, Drop a Beat going into the bridge. I was like, why didn't I think of that? Well, now that's what I do for other people. Hey, why don't you do this? So yeah, I mean, they work together. But everybody, there's division of labor, as you well know, good economic sense. And Dino mixed it, and it was mastered by Bernie Grunman. So ended up with a nice record.
But you waited 25 years to do another one.
Stuff.
Yeah, I know. Well, and you mentioned the click track, and I know I threw you some curves because I'm very, very seldom ever even rehearse or practice with a click track.
Well, that's what saved that record is that we had rehearsed just interminably with a click. We could always tell if we'd come up with an arrangement and we're rushing or dragging a certain part. As soon as you put the click on, it doesn't lie. And you're like, okay, we need to work on that. Make sure we're not just kind of getting into this habit, which is, like a well-worn track. You get these grooves of playing that you get used to doing, and sometimes they're bad habits, just like anything else, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was very helpful to rehearse with a click. Yeah.
What led you to focusing more on the production and the recording and the engineering aspect of music?
Well, very simply, I don't want to tour anymore. That was it. If I could have made a decent living, supported my family, and toured, but the problem is when you're touring, you're not at home. Man's responsible for his household, So let me tell you, and mm-hmm. as well as I know, there are very, very few marriages that survive constant touring. Mm-hmm. You think you're going to make it work. Yeah, it works, and then children come, and it's your legacy, and you're going to pass this on to the next generation. Plus, man's responsible for the condition of his household. Well, it's really hard to do that when you're not home.
Well, and then there's always the financial aspect of it too. You're going to have a problem at home that
Well,
you need to deal with or something, and you're out and
yeah.
you know.
My original answer was going to be money, but okay.
Well, that is that. Sadly, everything involving music involves money, one way or another.
The joke is that I finally got wise and got on the other side of the glass and started making a decent living.
Yeah, I know how much you charge.
That's right, yeah. And it's a pretty penny. No, actually, it's a great deal for what you get in return.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yes, I will verify that. But you're a Baptist pastor.
Yeah, Southern Baptist.
You pastor. I'll talk properly here. You pastor a church that's real close, right down the road here.
9/10 of a mile.
And okay, what led you into following that? I mean, and where did you go to college?
That question presupposes that I ever went to college.
Well, you had to get did you have to go to seminary?
No.
Okay.
No. Now here's the thing.
So how did you become a?
There's a saying we have amongst our like-minded brethren that masculinity isn't taught, it's caught. And there's something about that where, again, going back to why I got off the road in the first place, my son, 8 years old, 9 years old, I have to be at home, In a similar fashion, Proverbs talks about, being present in the company of the wise. So seminary is actually too divorced from the church itself. And I believe pastoral training should take place at the local church. One of the biggest errors that was ever made was to separate the seminary from the university and to separate the seminary from church oversight. Why do you think so many seminaries end up going loony lefty and embracing all kinds of social theory that's unbiblical? Well, it's because you don't have pastors saying, not on my watch. You have boards of directors and they got to keep the money coming in. All that to say, for years in Christian music ministry, I've always been an avid reader. Got serious about Christ May of '87, and really began cutting my teeth on authors like A.W. Tozer, C.S. Lewis. Everybody has to read C.S. Lewis.
Everybody.
And then came Francis Schaeffer.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized there is a much larger vision of the gospel, of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Christ, his reign. In fact, right now I'm in a sermon series called Victory in Jesus. Not just the old song. We're talking about victory of Jesus in human history. So I am, yes, a post-millennialist. But all that to say, it was kind of a progressive morphing. I had been teaching a Sunday school class at our previous church, Christ Covenant Church in Winona Lake, with Larry McCall and those guys. And I realized I think I'm more strategic if I'm able to teach than go out, play a set, give a presentation of the gospel, and then leave town. That was another part of all that was happening around 99 and 2000. So I'd been teaching different classes under the umbrella of apologetics, so you can fit anything in there. Philosophy, world history, defense of the manuscripts, whatever you want to put in there. And during this time, I was reading, continuing to read, continue to study, and we ended up, along with 7 other families, planting a church, which now meets in Larwell, Indiana. And I was approached by the men of the church, would you consider being an elder here in the church? Yeah, I said I don't think I'm going to be the full-time regular pulpit supply, but yeah. So went through the process, interviewing with all the different heads of households, had a congregational examination basically, which had much more to do with 1 Timothy 2, which is all about character. A man's 1 Timothy 3, then man's character. Home is the proving ground for ministry. What's your life like? Because they knew I could teach. So that began that. I helped pastor that church for 11 years, almost 12. And during that time period, found out that this little church down the road, which we drove by every Lord's Day, was losing their pastor. And I thought, wow, instead of planting a church from scratch, let's see if this would work. I am a Baptist. That means I don't baptize babies. That's basically, there are other things along with that, but most evangelicals are really Baptist at heart. So it's been, in fact, last Sunday was 4 years.
You know, a lot of people don't differentiate between the office and the work of a teacher versus a preacher. They're two completely different facets of ministry, aren't they?
They can be.
Well, I've always regarded them as very specific, because a good
Right.
teacher is not necessarily a good preacher, and vice versa.
Right, exactly. So, technically speaking, in the New Testament, preacher is in public to pagans. So you're proclaiming the mighty works of God to people who hate God. That said, the ministry of the word, the service of the word, can be teaching. In fact, I think all pastor preaching has teaching to it, but there's something about taking that word and through the power of the Spirit applying it to the lives of the people. Whereas a good teaching can basically just disseminate a whole lot of information and reach a conclusion, but it doesn't necessarily take the word and go.
Well, I've what's the verse where the foolishness of preaching, which I've always kind of liked that, because you have somebody who's in Bible college, well, what are you majoring in?
The foolishness of preaching.
A great answer would be, I'm majoring in foolishness with a minor in rude noises or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, those kind of rude noises.
yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right. I think the best way to summarize that would be all preaching involves teaching, but not all teaching involves preaching.
Musically, you've been doing this now for quite some time.
As far as being on the other side of the glass. Yeah.
What is the biggest change that you've seen? I mean, secular music, Christian music, whatever, in music in general. What's the biggest change that you've seen?
This may sound cliche, but there's a lack of creativity and a homogeneous nature of a lot of music that I just
Yeah.
well, but
I know.
so don't misunderstand. Sometimes the simplest is the coolest. So, for example, and I think we talked about this one other time. I should, like, as a producer, as a musician, as an all-around, well-rounded music guy, I should like Dave Matthews. I'm supposed to like Dave Matthews. But Dave Matthews doesn't get it for me. It just, whatever. It's, oh, that's great. Oh, wonderful. AC/DC. Oh, yeah.
Well,
And
you
let
and I
me
disagreed with. I don't like Nirvana. I know people out there are Nirvana fans. I've never gotten into that band, and you and I have argued back and forth about that.
And I always ended up on the top end of that argument. You know why? Their songs are creative. Their songs go somewhere. And the chord structures aren't the same old. I mean, come on, let's get real. How many songs now, especially in the vocabulary of the modern church setting, but this carries forth into all over the place. 1 1 1 1 1 1 5 5 5 5 5 5 6 6 6 6 6 6 4 4 4 4 4 4 right?
Yeah.
Nirvana. They're creative, and you walk away going, that's the hook. Hooky hook hook. Of course, it's been long gone now,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Understanding the value of composition and being able to it's almost like schizoid jazz still has a chord chart. There's always a structure within what music's going to take.
But the chops in jazz. The chops are.
Well, the chops are insane.
They're insane. I
Right.
mean, brilliant.
Right. So what? No one cares. Look,
musicians care. Come
exactly,
on.
and that pairs the audience down.
You're saying musicians' music versus the popular music, but
right. And I don't like the popular music, so there's got to be a balance in there somewhere, right? So you take a song like the Guess Who, don't give me, don't hand me. It's kind of predictable at the end. Don't you know when he does all the vocal stuff that he does so well. Da 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 da, do 2 major, then back. That's cool. That was on the radio. Let me tell you, man, it takes 12 songwriters, 4 producers, 3 engineers to come with the most horrible, objectively substandard nonsense that makes it on the Spotify playlist.
I agree with you. I mean, when I've done enough reviews over the last 5 years for obscure online sources, and you get a CD and you start reading all the. I read all the stuff. I'm one of those people, and
they're just nursery rhyme stupid.
Well, and it's like each song has a different producer, and I keep wondering, first of all, how do you get the continuity? And what kind of a budget do you have for that? That is just, it's insane. Yeah. It's insane. But, well, okay, we'll talk about insanity. Let's talk about...
Salt 2.
Yeah, Salt 2, Trophy Hunting for Unicorns. I mean, go ahead. I'm going to say...
let me tell you.
I'm going to say, I'm a big boy, but not physically. But anyway, go ahead. Well, what do you think about the new album and working with us?
Okay, all right. First of all, you're going to come to this thinking, well, this is like a modern version of prog rock. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's got some weird stuff in there, but it's actually there's more of a sensibility that you bring to the table, and then your drummer Curtis was able to transmit that to the kit.
Who's behind the camera, by the way?
I haven't looked at the camera the whole time. Is that you back there?
That's Curtis back there.
Gee, Dad, I don't see so well. Is that a young Louis Belson?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys said I want to work with Tim. That's cool, great, wonderful. Right. From my perspective, it wasn't just fine, whatever. I'll take their money. I'm gonna if I hear something that I think is interesting and I like, and I know this could be pretty cool. I'm going to invest myself into it, because I've worked on all kinds of different music over the years, played on it. Right now I'm working with 4 different singer-songwriters where I'm the band. So I get to play a lot, My left hand's a little rusty on the chops.
Oh, I heard that. Good Lord.
But for you guys, it was more like, okay, I want to take what they've got going on and make it just as cool and intricately have the clarity, the heaviness, the hit, all the stuff that I can possibly do. And that takes us back to the approach and engineering of the early and mid 70s. It really does. You're not going to fill all the spaces with all the sounds. There's going to be some air in there, and it's not all going to be synced up onto the grid. We're not going to do whatever it is, beat detector. You ever hear the story about when they were using Pro Tools to record Neil? They got the take done, that's great, everything, okay, they go for lunch, and the engineers are like, so, do we do beat detective on Neil Peart? No, you don't. So anyway, all that to say, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of spread out over a period of time, just because you had a lot of different musicians coming in, and John Schlitt came and sang. Yep. That was fun. It's great working with a singer that can sing, and so I can produce. He's got an idea. Great, let's try that. No, one more. And let me tell you,
his
John,
ability to do harmonies is just
so fun,
extraordinary.
So fun, That's his thing. Let's stack 3, 5, 7, and then 2 on top. Man, that's cool.
And I threw him a curve with a song called "When the Grid Goes Down." He couldn't get it the first time because there's a timing issue with one line.
Well, I do. For a while, I was like, how is he going to nail these verses? Because they don't make any sense at all. Well, but he did. Lyrically, they made perfect sense, but within the music,
It was a timing issue that he couldn't get right away.
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it was.
You and your
it was different.
6'4".
What's wrong with that?
I love 6'4". A lot of my stuff's 6'4".
Well, it's basically it is a.
Don't defend 6'4". I'm a fan.
It is a cross. What we did was a cross between prog rock and jazz with a rockabilly tune stuck in there.
That was a one-off. I don't even count that on the record. That was a one-off, fun little game that you played, and the rest of the record is like, wow, it was cool. And who played guitar on that? That was
Dan.
Yeah, Dan's good. Oh, that's something I thought too. So, it wasn't just, it was your vision. Here's what we're going to put together. And, like we talked about, these are just ideas. We're jamming and coming up with things. Hey, hit record. And, Curtis is almost too much by half sometimes, but that's the style. That's what we're looking at the camera.
Yeah.
We are laughing. And that's the kind of, that's what you bring to the table. I remember recording a project for somebody back in 2006. The basic tracks were these two brothers, acoustic guitar, and the drums. And when it was all done, the drummer said, man, if I didn't know we were going to be piling all this stuff on and what it would sound like, I wouldn't have played as busy. Yeah, exactly. You're going to open up more, but it still sounded cool. So for your stuff, that all works together for this big mess of pottage. That is Salt 2. The other thing is, the other reason it sounds 70s is because of the other musicians. These guys are older than me. That means old. And they brought...
Curtis isn't even 30 yet. My son is older than Curtis.
Yeah.
He's playing with guys that are
But Curtis
40 years
is an
old.
anomaly.
Yes, he is.
He's obviously drunk deeply from the well of Bruford and Gadd and Weckl and all of the cats.
Yes.
Jazz and prog. It's more jazz. So
he needs to get his IQ tested.
Huh?
He needs to get his IQ tested.
Probably. We're a little concerned.
Way up there.
Yeah, he needs an editor. So anyway, there's where I come in, right? So Dan brings a certain approach to guitar.
Yeah. He's a very clean player.
Exactly.
Very clean,
Exactly.
Which is something you're not that used to. And he's got that old Les Paul, 1970 Les Paul.
Beautiful.
And he really loves, help me here, Stray Cats.
Oh yeah, Brian Setzer.
Yeah, Setzer.
Yeah.
He loves that kind of stuff. And Dan's more of an acoustic player because when we did the first album and then this one, he had been spending most of his time playing acoustic guitar. He's into Phil Keaggy and Tommy Emmanuel.
Well, you could only tell that the solo who played the solo in where John on the big Hammond organ solo in the middle. Screens.
Yeah.
Screens was cool. Well, it's the 6/4 one. So you could tell, and here's the thing. So we, going back to this thing about, it's all about execution, AC/DC, bonehead riffs, but they play them correctly. There are those little ghost notes that a, guitar down by his thigh, can barely reach the neck, but it looks cool.
Can't do an F chord. Yeah.
Right. Those guys bring something to the table that the clean guys can't wrap their brains around. And I just call it one word: strut.
Okay.
And you've got to have those little, the little anticipatory whang, you know how it is. Whereas the other guys are like, bang, ba 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 ba, instead of there's something about that, and it's all a matter of taste. So a guy who's super into Keaggy, he's gonna be clean, and that solo, Now who was that on that solo? Who played the solo? That's Dan. Yeah. Now the other guitar player was the original Petra.
Greg Hogue. And he played on Three Nails and then that instrumental thing called Conversation.
Right. And Three Nails had a cool solo too.
Yeah.
And that was his styling.
Mm-hmm.
And then John, keyboard, right?
John McCorkle.
Yeah, John McCorkle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we lad. bring a B3 in here, put it down now. And he brought his thing to it. But these guys they came up through the ranks in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's definitely a mindset that those musicians bring to the table that is part of their musical history.
And then we had Kevin Kyle on 2 songs too, and his
right, just turn that amp up.
His focus is entirely different.
Entirely, right,
guys.
right. He's an '80s guy.
Yeah, he's an in-your-face guy.
Late '80s. Yeah. I don't think I didn't end up playing on the record.
Yeah, you did.
What did I play?
You did. On the blues thing, you did a proper blues chord structure.
And okay, let's go back to Fandango.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you credit too. You tuned my 8-string bass for me. That thing is a bear. I love it.
As a piano tuner,
yeah,
I consider 8 strings kindergarten.
Yeah. Well, it's. I just bought a 7-string bass.
Oh, cool.
Nick is,
You're right. Yeah, we have to go like this.
Yeah, almost. But the fact that you were able to tune that, I was struggling with it. The thing will not stay in tune.
Yeah, I know. They're tough. My bass player used to have an 8-string Kramer with an aluminum neck, and it was just a bear to keep in tune.
You breathe on it wrong, it goes out.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Well, a couple more questions here.
All right.
What kind of advice would you give other musicians? Anything, anybody wants to record with you, or somebody just starting out, or even somebody who's been around for a few years?
Well, to paraphrase Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, buy a hollow body, grow a goatee, wear a beret, sit on a stool, and play jazz. This was in his guitar player interview, and he goes, "Oh, you want advice that's good for them?" Oh, I see.
I see. All right.
Well, to be honest, I might not be the right guy to ask. However, technology being what it is, I mean, you talked about, what are the changes in the last 21 years that I've been doing this full time. And you're always recording demos. The demo that got us the deal with the Elefantes, I recorded that on a borrowed 8-track with borrowed console and borrowed mics, So always recording, and it's kind of cross-morphed into this. But one of the biggest changes is that there's no such thing as a demo tape anymore. You either record a song or don't record a song. Either make it you and a guitar with your phone, and there's your idea, and then you go from there, or do the song. I mean, a laptop isn't that expensive. Software is. I use Reaper. Reaper rocks. It's the best DAW out there. So versatile, flexible. You can get it to route any way you want. Comes with a ton of plugins. Just their stock. The Cuckoos plugins and the what's the other family of plugs they bundle in. You can mix a record on that stuff if you really wanted to. And that's only $60. So anyone can record. So now it's a matter of knowing what your goal is, where you want to head musically. I mean, obviously one of the biggest differences between an actual studio and just somebody in their bedroom is the drum room. That's really it. You want to record real drums, you got to know what you're doing, because they're going to sound like, oatmeal tubs if you're not careful.
Right.
If you don't know where you're going with it. And the other thing is with the labels kind of being out of the loop on that whole broad spectrum. It used to be said that there's no middle class in music. You've got this huge, poor, amen. Can I get an amen, John?
Amen.
Poor underclass of working musicians, and then this cream at the top, but there's really nothing in the middle. Now you've got more chance to do that in the middle if you're willing to tour, if you're willing to take your stuff on the road, and you start pushing on Spotify and iTunes and have a small following, build that way. You can actually do some stuff. You have to be willing to do that. Get on the road.
I don't know if
you're
we'll
a
ever
band.
go on the road, or
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever play this live. I would love to.
That'd be great.
We have put together a YouTube page.
Yeah.
And that's what this is going to be for.
Yes, excellent.
And we're really trying to get it out there as best we can, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the internet. I think the internet has destroyed the music industry that we grew up with.
And enabled all these young musicians to.
But on the other side of that coin,
Exactly.
yes, you can go online and everybody's got their demo out there that was shot in their living room or
Oh my stars! Some of these
Some are really
10-year-olds are sitting there just nailing, killing me.
At 10 years old, I have no. It makes you want to take all your gear, put it in the front lawn, douse it in gasoline, and just say, "I'm done."
Except, remember what I said about the guy with the Les Paul around his knees, making it go.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
Come
There's
on.
still times you see these kids with chops like how. What?
Incredible. Yeah.
Well, okay. Last question is what do you got in the way of plans? What's going on in Tim Bushong's life?
What's going on? Well, I am no longer just Aaron or Hannah or Rachel's dad. You change your identity as you get older. Mm-hmm. You used to be, you're Tim Bushong.
Depending on which state I'm in.
Yeah, right, right. Used to be you're the guy from Leavenworth. Cool, we really like you. Oh, you're the Chelmsford guy. Yeah. Then it started off. Oh, you can make us sound like you. Now you're the guy who produces all the heavy metal stuff around the area. Now it's pretty soon it's going to be you must be Elisa's granddad or Liam's granddad.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I'm still recording. Obviously, still love it.
Give us another year, we'll be back.
Good. I can't wait. I just have a repeat client from 2012 with a full band. Can't wait because they're good musicians. Working on a couple different projects. My main focus, my main passion now is in pastoring Syracuse Baptist Church. God has been very good to us. You can't take a unhealthy church and steer it around immediately. It takes time. You have to, plant in the lives of the people. Some people aren't going to stick around. Not because I'm doing anything novel. It's because I'm requiring them to obey Jesus. So you're going to have that. But God's brought a bunch of new people into our midst, families, and we're getting more and more involved in abortion ministry and being able to speak at conferences, different things. So a lot of doors opening on that front. And so here's how I'll close. People know me from my version of A Mighty Fortress because it was on a pretty well-known podcast. So people will, again, just last weekend, our main speaker got sick. Can you come down? We need another teacher. Like, great, love to. I love you guys. Love the topic. I get there. No one cares about anything except, Tim, your version of Mighty Fortress. That is so good. I'm like, I appreciate that. I have nothing to say. Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful to hang out with you in my studio.
And we will, like I said, give us another year. We'll be back.
Great.
Let's throw you some more curveballs.
I want the curves.
Okay, go get them.
All right.
All right, sir. Thank you.